Hey, hello. My name is Quatisha Renee, and you are watching Quatisha Create. Hello, besties. So today we are going to be making another Milky Way tumbler, and I am super excited about this. This time, however, instead of using the epoxy method, we are going to be using Crystalac Brite Tone. And I know, do not scroll away yet. Don't scroll away yet, you guys, because you're still gonna learn a lot as far as how I created this design. This design turned out absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love it. Now it does need a few coats of it needs some finishing coats. It's still a work in progress. You guys, if you want to know how I create this design, you're gonna want to keep watching this video. Let's jump right in. Okay, we will be working on this 25-ounce tumbler. It is a Hydro Sport style that was purchased from Craft Haven. I will leave a link down below. I am using an assortment of paint brushes, and I'm going to paint on my acrylic paint. Prior to this step, I have sanded my tumbler, I have spray painted, and I've coated it with universal white. Now the only reason why I coated it with universal white on top of spray paint was because my son does my prepping of my tumblers for me, which is one of the reasons why I just omitted completely from my tutorials. He is 14 years old. He sands my tumblers for me, and he spray paints them with a base layer of white. And I don't get too caught up on how well he does usually, because I'm always going on top of that paint with an additional color. However, this time he did a very, very crappy job at base painting my tumbler, so I had to go in with universal white from the Crystalac company. So once that paint dried, I was able to come in with my acrylic paint. Now the acrylic paint, I'm using two different purples, a light color and a darker purple, because that's usually how I work my Milky Ways. I'm also using a silver color, and I'm using all of that to basically create an outline for how I plan on laying my glitters. I use this method both with epoxy and now with, epoxy free Milky Ways. It just helps to kind of have a plan for how you're going to lay your glitter. I will link my previous Milky Way tumbler video. I use spray paint to create this outline. If you are going to use spray paint when creating or when using the Crystalac Brite Tone, you just want to make sure that you are allowing 24 to 48 hours for your spray paint to gas off. Acrylic paint is dry. We're going to go into the next step. Now, disclaimer. I am brand spanking new to the Crystalac epoxy free Brite Tone community. Okay, so it's gonna be a lot of trial and error in the beginning of this process, so do not judge me. You can leave your judgment-free comments down in the comment section to help me figure this thing out. But I had the bright idea to use Brite Tone to apply my glitter. Now, in my mind, I was like, I probably should do the Mod Podge, but you know what? I'm trying to be all Crystalac, epoxy free, which Mod Podge really has nothing to do with that. However, I was just trying to use Crystalac products to complete this tumbler. I regret it. I should have used Mod Podge, so I am going to suggest that you use Mod Podge to apply your glitter during this step. I'm going to fast forward through much of this because it just ended up being a hot mess. The Brite Tone was basically gliding on the tumbler like water and drying just as quickly. So it didn't really help me in this step or the way that I applied it. I have seen other makers apply Brite Tone for their Milky Way tumblers, and I'll play with it more in the future. Maybe not. But the way that I tried to do this, it just didn't work. It didn't work very well. But I will, show you a little bit of the hot mess. Let's just fast forward through all of this. So after giving the Brite Tone sufficient amount of time to dry, which was at least 4 hours, this actually was 6 hours later, I went ahead and went in with a hard bristle brush to knock off glitter that I knew was not sticking in the first place. So now we're going to go in with our Mod Podge, and I am just going to paint like each individual section, kind of sometimes 2 sections, so that I can kind of ombre the sections in. And I'm going to glitter it this way, and I'm going to be sure to get full coverage because I do not want to do 2 layers of glitter. And when I say 2 layers of glitter, I'm talking about, I don't want to do more than this layer because I don't even count the first layer as a layer, if you know what I mean. Now, if you are glittering your Milky Way tumbler using the Mod Podge method or any quick drying glue method, you want to not spend so much time emptying your glitter into your containers in between glitter colors like I normally do. So what I'm actually doing is just using several pieces of parchment paper, and I'm moving them out of the way when I finish with a certain color, and so that I can empty the glitter into its bottles when I am done. Typically when I am glittering my Milky Way tumblers, I like to pair my chunky glitter with a similar fine glitter that's either beside it or within that same section. Now with this method, using the Crystalac method, I'm still trying to figure out the whole chunky glitter situation, so I don't feel too confident like laying down a thick layer of chunky. So what I'm doing is I like sprinkle the chunky on, and then I've been filling it in with the fine glitter so that I won't have such a difficult time when I'm applying my layers of Brite Tone. After glitter in our tumbler, we are going to allow it to dry for about an hour, and then I'm going to come in and apply some more Mod Podge to my silver areas because I want to add a little bit more dimension there and add some chunky on top of this fine glitter. The glitter I'm using here is a color from Glitterful, and they are also based in North Carolina. This color is like the most beautiful silver I have ever seen. I believe the name is Promise. So we're also going to take this time just to clean up any problem areas on our tumbler. I don't want to do like a second layer on everything, but I'm going through and making sure that I do have complete coverage on our tumbler. So I'm making sure that I have that bottom rim and the very bottom of the tumbler completely covered. We don't want to see any paint. After we've allowed our tumbler to dry some, maybe about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we are going to come in and roll the tumbler in parchment paper. And we are doing this to help lay down that chunky glitter and get our tumbler as flat as possible. After that, I am going to come in with a piece of magic eraser and some water and simply clean around the rim of my tumbler. After taping off our tumbler, again, I am going to come in with a softer bristle brush and we're going to knock off some of the excess glitter, then come in with our glitter glue to seal everything in. Applying Crystalac's glitter glue is going to help keep our glitter colors from moving all over the place, and it's also going to help minimize the amount of layers of Brite Tone that we'll need. Once we've applied the glitter glue, we can roll it in parchment paper to smush our glitters. After an hour, it will be completely dry within 2 hours, and then we can go into our first layer of Brite Tone. On this first layer, I used about 15 ml of Brite Tone. On the next 2 layers, I used 12.5 ml of Brite Tone, and then I stopped measuring. After my 4th layer of Brite Tone, I sanded my tumbler using my 400 sanding grit block, and then I applied 1 additional layer on top of that. After cleaning it up, I retaped my tumbler, and we are now at this step. We have our medicine cups all laid out, and we will be using our mica powders from Aritza. I like to use a combination of acrylic paints and mica powders, an acrylic paint in the color white, a lavender color, a purple color, and silver. Now we're going to mix in just a little bit of Brite Tone. Brite Tone is really thin, and you work in thin layers, so I'm just going to use just enough to get the mica powder or the acrylic paint mixed very well. It will be really runny or watery, so we only need a little bit to achieve the look that we are going for. Once we have everything mixed up, we are going to go in with a thin layer of Brite Tone. Once we're finished applying it, we are going to let it spin for just a few minutes, and then we are going to go in with our lightest color, which is always white. So I'm always going to start with my white because that is usually the most dominant part of this Milky Way / marble design. When applying my swirls, I like to make sure that my tumbler is rotating to the right, and I usually go from the bottom corner up to the top, and I don't chase the tumbler. I just allow it to go at whatever speed it's going, and I match that speed with how I'm applying my swirl. So I personally like to go in with my white first, and then I come in with the dominant color on the tumbler. Now the amount of solution that I'm putting on the tumbler is different than what I would be putting down if it was an epoxy tumbler, because I don't really want this stuff running all over the place. It's so watery that I'm really just dipping my popsicle stick I'm really just dipping my popsicle stick in the color, and then I'm just dragging it onto the tumbler. Like, I'm not actually scooping it out and drizzling it on. Now after I do the tumbler with the white swirls, then I come in with the color, but I do like to keep the color within the color that it matches with. So I like to keep the darker purple swirls within the darker purple because that creates more contrast and depth to that area. And I like to use the lighter color in the lighter section. Also, the silver will be in the silver section. And once I've added all of my colors to the tumbler, then I go back in and add some more white if I feel it's necessary. And once I'm done with that, I'll let it spin for a little bit, and then I go in with my finger and I marbleize all my colors together. What I'm doing is I'm just blending them together or just flattening them out, like whatever I feel I need to do to create that marble look and create the look that I like. The benefit to, or the good part about these swirls is if you don't like something, you can simply just wipe it off. It's very easy to do, but just play with it until it looks like what you want it to look like. And if that means adding more paint or micas, then do it. Now, after you are finished with this process, you can watch to see how your tumbler swirls. And if you need to, you can change the directions if you feel like it's swirling too much. Because I used such a minimal amount, I didn't have to worry about the swirling part. Not so much anyway. As I was applying them, I was taking away when I felt like one area had too much or was moving too much. And here's a closer look at our swirl. It turned out absolutely beautiful. Now what I did was I applied 2 more coats of Brite Tone 4 hours apart, and then I was ready to sand it and apply my decal. Once your decal is applied, it's just a matter of layering up your Brite Tone to cover your decal and to end up with a smooth tumbler. That's how you would finish off this tumbler. I am still working on finishing it off, but I absolutely love the way that it turned out, and I think my customer, Miss Lauren, is going to love it also. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop your comments down below. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on my social medias. Also, I want to see you in the Facebook group. It's Glitter Tumblers and more. Until next time, bye-bye.